Hello and welcome. Okay, let's just get right into it because this is something we've all wondered about. Why in the world do hotel prices feel like they have a life of their own?
You know the feeling, right? You're looking at a room for a weekend trip, it's one price, you get distracted, you come back an hour later, and poof, the price has jumped. Or that very same room you stayed in for a cheap work trip is suddenly 3 times the price for a holiday weekend. It feels totally random, but I promise you, there is absolutely a system behind all this madness. And that entire system really just boils down to two classic, powerful ideas: demand and supply. Honestly, just think of it like a giant seesaw. Demand is all of us, the customers who want to book a room. And supply is the business side, the actual number of rooms a hotel has to offer. The price you pay, that's just the point where that seesaw perfectly balances. So to really get this, we've got to break it down. Let's start with your side of the equation. All the things that make us, the customers, want to travel in the first place. This is the demand side. First up, the big picture, the economy. I mean, it makes sense, right? When people have more disposable income, that extra cash left over after all the bills are paid, we're way more likely to book a trip. But on the flip side, when inflation is high and everything from gas to groceries costs more, travel is usually one of the first things we cut back on. And hey, if you're traveling internationally, exchange rates can make a huge difference, suddenly making a trip abroad a total bargain and boosting demand. All right, next up is probably the most obvious one of all: seasonality. Of course, demand for a beach hotel is going to be through the roof in the summer, and nobody's lining up for a ski lodge in July. Hotels are total pros at this. They track everything from school holidays and big concerts to huge conferences in town. They use all that info to predict when they'll be busy and adjust their prices to match. But it's not just about the calendar. Our personal tastes are a huge driver of demand now. Think about it. Trends like wellness retreats or searching for eco-friendly hotels can create brand new travel hotspots. And come on, how many of us have booked a place just because it looked absolutely incredible on social media or had thousands of 5-star reviews? That right there is modern demand in action. And finally, there's the really big stuff, the major events that can change everything overnight. Things like new travel restrictions or political issues can completely crush demand. We all saw what happened with COVID-19. It just brought the entire travel world to a screeching halt. But on a more positive note, think about how the rise of super easy booking apps has made it simpler than ever to plan a trip, which generally pushes overall demand up. Okay, so that's half the story. That's the demand. Now let's hop over to the other side of the counter and look at this whole thing from the hotel's perspective. Let's talk about supply. So the first thing you have to realize about supply is the competition. It is not just about the Marriott versus the Hyatt Anywhere. The absolute explosion of short-term rentals, especially on platforms like Airbnb, has completely changed the game. It's dramatically increased the total supply of rooms available in most cities, and that gives us, the customers, way more choices than we ever had before. Which kind of leads to a pretty logical question, right? If demand is so high in some places, why don't companies just build more hotels? Well, it turns out it's a whole lot more complicated than that. For one thing, running a hotel is incredibly expensive. Just look at this breakdown. A massive piece of the pie is just paying the staff. Then you've got to keep the lights on, keep the water running, stock the kitchens, and constantly pay for maintenance and repairs. With all those high costs, you can't just decide to open a new wing on a whim. And beyond the day-to-day costs, other big things put a cap on supply. Sometimes it's just really hard to find enough staff. Then there's all the government red tape like licensing and safety rules. And maybe the biggest factor, building a brand new hotel takes years. So unlike, say, making more smartphones, the supply of hotel rooms is pretty fixed, especially in the short run. So there you have it. We've got the ever-changing wants of the customers on one side and the pretty much fixed realities of the business on the other. Now for the main event. Let's see how these two forces crash into each other to create the price you actually pay. This right here is the simple, powerful formula that drives every single price change. It's so logical when you see it laid out. When demand is super high but supply is low, think about New Year's Eve in a major city. Prices are going to skyrocket. On the other hand, when demand is low and there are tons of empty rooms, like a rainy Tuesday in February at that same hotel, prices have to drop to get people in the door. And when things are more or less balanced, prices stay pretty stable. And listen, this isn't just a general idea, it's a very precise science in the hotel industry. They call it revenue management. Hotels use seriously powerful software to analyze all of this stuff: demand, supply, local events, even the weather. all in real time, constantly adjusting prices to get the most money they can from every single room. Okay, so you've basically learned the secret formula behind hotel pricing. That's great, but what does it actually mean for you? How can you use this information the next time you're planning a trip? It means you can start playing the game a whole lot smarter. First, and this is the big one, try to travel when demand is low. Flying out on a Tuesday instead of a Friday is almost always going to be cheaper. Second, if you absolutely have to travel during a peak time like a holiday, book as far in advance as you can. Lock in that price before the demand and the rates really start to climb. And finally, think about location. Maybe stay a couple of miles outside the main tourist area where supply is higher and demand is just a little bit lower. So, the next time you see a hotel price jump up and down, you'll know it's not some kind of random magic. It's that constant, fascinating dance between what we want and what's available. The real question is, now that you know the steps to that dance, are you ready to lead on your next booking?